Welcome back to Hot Takes and Deep Dives. And I am here with my good friend. You know him, you love him. It's Zack Peter from #NoFilter.
Hi.
Hi. And not only is he from the podcast #NoFilter, but he's also co-headlining are we calling this a national tour? Kind of. You are crisscrossing the country.
Yeah, we're all over the country.
I mean, you did LA and Nashville already in the can. And in 2 weeks, you're going to be in New York City at the City Winery. So I originally pitched this idea to Zack. I texted Zack like a week or two ago saying, is this a good, because Zack and I guess you guys may know just from like my guesting on his show, like we are super close and we talk maybe 5 to 10 times a day.
Yeah.
It's like constant. Yeah. And so we're always like sort of like pitching ideas and like thoughts to each other. And I just randomly messaged him, is this a good idea or not? What if we did something around Bethenny's talk show? Like the 2013 to 2014 talk show that she did, the one season. Like, I know that all of the videos are still up on YouTube, which I want to get into the mechanics of that. But I was like, is this a good idea or no? And tell me what you responded with.
Absolutely. Well, because also to add context, 60% of our conversations involve Bethenny Frankel. Like unintentionally, like every day we're just like tracking Bethenny and like going back and forth about like what she's doing. Today she's like a TikTok beauty guru. Tomorrow she's, doing the matcha latte comparisons. Like she's and then she's promoting, Skinny Girl Baloney, that like she's so all over the place that keeping track with her is just a part of what keeps our friendship ignited.
Tell them exactly what you respond. When I said, is that a good idea to like, if we did a deep dive on her talk show, you responded with,
yes, because I watch her talk show religiously. Like I literally go and just watch these videos on YouTube over and over. I was just the other day, before Jess even pitched this to me, rewatching all the Omarosa videos when she was on the show, which so good, by the way.
Yeah. I guess to get out of the way, why?
I find Bethenny so fascinating and I just love to watch her. And also like she was a terrible talk show host. Like she was good, but also was very like, she was never going to be Oprah. She was never like, she doesn't have the bedside manner. She's very like hostile with her energy with people, but I just thoroughly enjoyed like the chaotic energy you get when watching it because she's so like, Bethenny.
I stayed up all night watching so many clips. I basically went down the entire Bethenny. There is an account on YouTube. It's just Bethenny, like that's the channel name, and it is nothing but clips from the old talk show. How many subscribers do you think this channel has?
Maybe 10,000.
It has 106,000 subscribers.
Really?
And some of these videos have over 2 million views.
Wow.
To which I am wondering, who is getting the AdSense money? Like, where is that going? I guess it's the production company. Like, is Ellen just getting that money?
Yeah, she has to be.
What a bitch.
Isn't that insane, though, that that's still performing that well all these years later?
It shows the power of Bethenny. All right, shall we? Are you ready to deep dive into the one season wonder?
Let's jump in.
That is Bethenny. So to sort of like paint the picture, this year was the 2013-2014 television season. So this aired during season 6 of Rhony, the year before Bethenny came back. So to give some context, Dorinda was not born yet. Erica Jane was not yet born on Beverly Hills. What do you think of the show? Like in general, like do you have any like favorite bits she's done? Because she had literally nearly every single New York housewife with the exception of Carol on, which is so interesting. Like she had all the OGs, not Jill Zarin, but she had Heather Holla Thompson. She had Kim Richards on, all the New York girls, Lisa Rinna,
Brandi Glanville.
Like, what are the most memorable things that you keep going back to?
Well, I think the Brandi Glanville interview had to be retaped. I think there was an issue. I want to say it was Brandy, where she went up and there were questions that, or it was a topic of conversation that was not allowed to be had, and Brandy's publicist made them reshoot the entire interview from the beginning because
But
the
how do you know that?
Because I think Bethenny revealed that somewhere. Bethenny
Oh.
said that because I think she may have been asked, like, what was her worst? Like, I tell you, when I love Bethenny, I've gone into all of the Bethenny. And I want to say it was Brandy Glanville that she said that that the publicist was so unhappy with the topic of conversation, which Brandy seemed fine with, but the publicist literally made them retape that entire segment, which to me is crazy that would even happen. But like it was so chaotic, the talk show, because like you have moments where she's like got like somebody in the audience that's like, I love your dress, Bethany. She's like, you love my dress here, and she just takes her dress off and like gives this random woman a dress like in the middle of this like production. It was just so intense, and it was very Bethany, but it doesn't work when you're an interviewer and you're in that sort of controlled, structured environment.
I thought that the best clips that they have on there are definitely not the interviews. Although I did enjoy the Andy Cohen interview because they played her audition tape. They play her audition tape in which she's like talking to a cab driver. Like, people should look this up. And then at the end of when they flash back, they roll the tape and then it cuts back to them sitting on the couch and he's like, are your boobs bigger in that? I just thought that was really funny. And then there's a whole other episode. The clip is titled Bethenny discusses her boob job, which I was quite compelled by. I enjoyed the stuff with the audience where they would have like style experts come in. One that I was fascinated by was, did you ever watch the eyebrow clip? Where it's like how to do your eyebrows, or like they had like 2 or 3 different women, and like one of them was like overly tweezed, like, you know how like in the 90s everything was super tweezed, so like her eyebrows are totally fucked, and so it showed how to like sort of pencil them in, where they should begin, where they should end. And then this other girl had fuller eyebrow. Well, I'm just sort of obsessed with eyebrows in general. This was like very catered to my interests. I found this, like, I was like, oh my god, I've hit the gold mine of the internet in this clip. So seek out the eyebrow clip.
I will. I love eyebrows.
That's a strong recommendation from me.
Okay. I feel like I've probably seen it. I just haven't seen it recently. And when I see it, I'll fall back in with it. But I feel like at that time when the show was airing, I wasn't into eyebrows. Where now, after having to stare at myself on camera for multiple hours a week, now I'm like very fixated on all of that, all of those tutorial types of things.
What do you think the trick is with eyebrows?
I think the trick is making them look full from, like the ends. I think a lot of people, don't pay enough attention to, and too many people focus like on this section, which also just makes your eyebrows look crazy. Like, you just have to like very lightly, finely, make sure they're fluffed, make sure they're full. The brows are the real key to like a great face. Like, the brows are what make your face, and people underutilize how important brows are.
When I interviewed Isaac Mizrahi for the first time, within the first like minute of the conversation, he was like, I love your eyebrows. And I was like, we're done. Thank you so much.
I hate that this Gen Z is trying to bring back the really thin eyebrows. I'm like, let's not go back to that era.
No.
Like the Pamela Anderson pencil thin eyebrows, they're trying to make them come back. And I'm like, let's don't do that.
What are your thoughts on waxing versus threading the eyebrows?
Threading, I think, is by far superior to waxing. Or for me, I know I would always break out when I would get my eyebrows waxed. I went to some people are like, oh, that just means the wax is bad. But it's very, like, I would go to different people, like different places. And I always kind of just had the same issue. There was only one woman that I didn't have that issue with, but she was like real flighty and did my eyebrows a little too thin. It's hard to find a good brow person. I now have had the same threader for maybe like 4 years now. When you find a good person, you have to keep that good person, and never spend $5 on eyebrows. It is not worth it. Someone is going to fuck it up at some point.
Agree. And listen, a good like eyebrow pencil. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
How do you pronounce it? Is it Anastasia or Anastasia?
I think it's Anastasia.
This Anastasia, you can get this at like Sephora or wherever. Yeah. That is a great, like, if you want to like fill in your brows, like highly, this is not sponsored.
No, it's not.
Okay, back to Bethenny. What do you think the most viewed video is on her channel? Do you think it's an interview? Do you think
It's
it's
got to
some?
be an interview. It's got to be an interview. And I'm going to say, oof, that's a really hard one. Maybe like there's the Ramona interview, right? And that's where Ramona stole the dress. And so that I think people would want to look up because it was brought up on Housewives. But then there's the Andy Cohen interview where we have her audition tape. But then there's the Martha Stewart interview where we
They get into it.
Yes, yes. But then there's the Omarosa video, which is the spiciest one of them all because that was the most feisty where they actually like had a spar for words. I'm gonna put my money on the Andy video.
The most watched video
It's not an interview
on
is
this
it?
channel with 2.5 million views
It's the
is
boobs.
titled "What Do Men Prefer Down There?" which I watched. And they never even bring up men. It's just Bethenny asking audience members if they wax, laser, or shave their body hair, like legs.
No.
They don't even mention men. Like men are like not figured into the conversation.
How ridiculous that is the most watched video.
I think it has nothing to do with Bethenny. I think it's literally people Googling what do men
Right.
prefer down there. And this is coming up and they're like, who the fuck is this bitch?
Right. But then we have the waxing and then we have the brows. Like this is an untapped territory that I don't think Bethenny has approached yet in terms of like, beauty, not beauty, but like personal care, personal hygiene, like what women can do to like improve or bring out their inner skinny girl. I don't know. I think that sounds like an untapped market that Bethenny is yet to tap into.
And but
What's the wine?
have you seen what she's doing lately with I think this is a brilliant she's doing this thing. I guess it's on TikTok. Whoever came up with this idea is brilliant. She does half of her face using like drugstore, like CVS, over the counter, like makeup. Well, everything's over the counter, but using CVS, no frills, not fancy makeup. And then she does the other side of her face using like Chanel, whatever expensive makeup brands there are. I don't even know. And she asks the listeners, like, which side of my face do you think is the expensive side? And in the end, she's like, it actually doesn't matter. Like, it's all the same shit.
Yeah, I know. I've watched those and I've started to enjoy those because, like, I don't know, she's learning her way as like a beauty guru on TikTok, but I'm appreciating the journey because it's a far stretch from where she started with doing like her Starbucks matcha latte, which we thought was the most hilarious thing because she's like, here's the one I get from Starbucks and here's the one I made myself and now I'm gonna taste test them. And she closes her eyes and one's in a mug and one's in a Starbucks cup, like two clearly different beverages, but she's like, I'm gonna close my eyes and do a blind test of each one of them and let you know which one I like better. And I just found that hilarious.
Like, I would think with all of her licensing deals, like, why do you go for like skinny girl baloney when you could do like Bethenny Beauty and she could license, like, get that CVS drugstore makeup, throw the Bethenny name on there and be like, this is the best stuff. I bet you she's going to do this.
I don't know why she hasn't.
I mean, especially after doing this series that she's doing, like, I would think, that would be a next step. I mean, if I was working with her, I'd be like, this is a thing. This is something that like would actually sell. At one point she was going to do Bethenny luggage, but I don't think it ever came out.
Like, what are her selling products? There's the shapewear, there's the skinny girl margarita, and there's the jeans.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all very catered to like women and what women want. Like skinny girl was great because everyone wants a low calorie cocktail that's already made for them. Jeans are great because they're very form fitting and they shape your body. Shapewear was great because it made women feel more confident. Luggage is such a random miss. Baloney, such a random miss. I guess her sweeteners are fine. I see them at Marshall's all the time, but like, I don't know. I just think like she needs to tap more into, helping women, especially because like on her TikTok and on her Instagram, she's like, this is me without makeup and this is me unfiltered and this is my hair care.
You briefly mentioned Ramona stealing the dress. For people, yes, this was an entire storyline on rhony, but for people who missed it, can you summarize the Ramona stealing the dress, which originated on this talk show?
So yes, Ramona came on Bethenny's talk show, didn't have a dress. I don't remember why.
I think she didn't like her dress. Like whatever she brought, either like it didn't, maybe she lost her luggage. Who the fuck knows?
Yes. And so Bethany's like, oh, it's okay. Here are two dresses that you can borrow, whichever one you want to wear. Go ahead and wear it. That way you have something to wear on the show. So she goes on, she wears Bethany's dress. She leaves with, I think, both of the dresses that Bethany was going to loan her, steals or takes them from the set. One I think she was still wearing, and then just never bothered to return them to Bethany. And Bethany's like, how do you just take somebody else's dress and then don't even bother to give it back to them? And Ramona's like, well, I didn't even know that I still had it. I didn't realize that I had taken it from you. And she's like, here's an Instagram from 2 weeks ago of you wearing the same fucking dress. Like, what, you're lying to me now. Like, it's not going to be as easy for everyone as it is for Bethany to just be like, I'm just going to have a handful of almonds today and, you know, some hummus and I'm going to be good.
When she is out to dinner, like a lot of her Instagram presence is just her taking photos of food. It's like plates of pasta and all this shit. What do you think she's taking pictures of strangers' plates at a restaurant?
No, I'm pretty sure she's ordering that. Her thing has always been like, you can have whatever you want, just have a one bite of it. So I'm pretty sure she's ordering all this food and just having like one bite of pasta and one bite of this. And, you know, I mean, I read Skinny Girl Solutions, or not Solutions. What was the first book? Naturally Thin. And in that, the model is, you know, she has like different little tricks. So she's like, if you want pasta, then go and have like 2 bites of pasta and then change the flavor. Maybe have a bite of ice cream so that you're no longer craving the pasta because you got the satiation of having the flavor of the taste of the pasta. So you're just constantly taking a bite of 4 different things. That way, you know, you're constantly switching your palate.
Wow.
So she has a whole system and the system works for her. I just don't know if it necessarily works realistically for everybody else, you know?
Now, this talk show and her podcast have a lot in common in that it's the stuff like he has to keep returning to Housewives. Like, you'd think if she has her own talk show, she would not want to feature Ramona Singer on that talk show.
Right.
Yes?
Right. But people are interested in Housewives. And I think she was smart enough to, or whoever was working for her on that show and producing it was smart enough to know that that was what's going to get people interested. But once you go to Housewives, then I think you kind of set that standard. And I think that's what she really did. I think a lot of people didn't want to go on her talk show because she was the housewife and they were like, I'm not going to do that. So they kind of needed to lean into that world of Housewives. But then once you lean into that, that's really all that you have.
She had people from every city. I think she had Kenya on. Like, she had, I think she had Candy on. Like, tons of people
Jacqueline
from Atlanta.
Larita, yeah.
Can we talk about her podcast? Have you been following, like, the latest? Like, in the last month or so? Like, what's been going down over there?
I heard the one that we had talked about with the Pete Davidson and why she hates reunions. That was, I think, the last one I listened to.
Except, the title of it's all clickbait. It's hilarious. Like, it's all clickbait. Like, the original premise of the podcast was I am interviewing, like, Mark Cuban and Hillary Clinton. And now we've devolved into talking about Pete Davidson's dick. And
so many times, too.
So many times. And, like, Kanye West, just, like, the bottom of the barrel. And some of these episodes, it's so strange. You know how she used to structure it? Like, she'd have a rant in the beginning and then an interview. Yeah. Now she's releasing episodes like last week, she released like 3 or 4 episodes in the week. But the episodes are like 13 minutes long. And it's just the Pete Davidson dick part. And like, that's an episode.
Yeah, it's not like a produced piece. Like, it's really just like a rant. She's like, let me hit record, let me rant about this, and let's put that out there. And
I think it's so interesting how she does have to keep reverting to housewife stuff. Like, the name of the episode, which was so clickbaity, was like Housewives Reunions. I was reading Molly Shannon's book, which came out last week, and it's phenomenal. And in the book, she talks about how when she was in Serendipity, I think, her father was dying, and her father said to her, small parts, like, do small parts. And it immediately made me think of Bethenny. Like, if you look at Bethenny's talk show, it's too much of her. And if you look at the podcast, it's too much of her. It's too intense. Truly, whether she likes it or not, where she thrives is in an ensemble cast where you get little doses of her. I don't think she's going to find a better venue than Housewives.
Right. Or reality TV. I mean, I think she shines best when she's able to be a personality that's just in the mix rather than somebody that's driving the train. Because when she's driving the train, it's moving with such a veracity and an intensity that it's not palatable in the long run. I think that's why like Bethenny Ever After kind of worked because you had Jason Hoppy, you had her other team
Mm-hmm.
members where she was just a piece of that. And they were also shorter episodes. I think they were only like 30 minutes. The seasons were
Mm-hmm.
a lot shorter. So it was like, packaged very in a condensed way, but she had other players to play off of. And I think, the talk show was very much about her. And again, her energy is just so intense that like, even in the interviews and stuff, like it was just not like she doesn't know how to talk to people in a long form 10-minute interview. She like fights with them and berates them. And then the other thing that's really important, and you understand this as an interviewer, is you control the energy in an interview. So if your guest comes in chaotic, you have to be the one to balance it out and level it out and make sure that they feel safe and open enough to be open with you and have a great conversation. And she just does not have that skill set.
She steamrolls. It's like
Yes.
she has her agenda and she doesn't really listen.
Right. And that's not a bad thing to have your agenda, but you need to know how to work with the pieces you have on the table to get you from point A to point B and sometimes or point A to Z but you need to go through all the other motions and pieces to get there and she just wants to trailblaze directly there in her own way and you have to realize that when you have other people that you're interviewing, you have to go around the pieces that are going to get them to get you where you want to be. You're ultimately in control, but you can't get there just by bulldozing through it.
And ultimately, the big shot with Bethenny was actually amazing. Like if we like get real about it,
Yeah.
that was the greatest time of our lives. We had so
Yeah.
much fun. We were not, I mean, we were annoyed by it because it like made no fucking sense, but she was she great on it? I'm trying to remember. Was she mental or was she great?
I think she was great because we saw her, we got to see more. Like, I didn't love her in like that mentor sort of role where she was like the
Mm-hmm.
judge and she had to like eliminate people. I didn't love that role of hers, but I loved her when she's on the photo shoot and she's like having like she's like, what the fuck is going on? Why am I not like when she was being Bethenny or like in the opening
Mm-hmm.
scenes with her team and she's talking about how she hates social media, like or we see her like bopping around New York City. Like those were the moments that were great because we really got to see Bethenny and it was shot so beautifully. Like the production value of it
Yeah.
was incredible. It was like Housewives next level.
I can't get over her blowing that Mark Burnett deal and claiming that she decided that it was a bad deal. Like, what is she talking? Like, how did she fuck that up?
I think she was very specific about what she wanted. And I think maybe they gave her a shot with the big shot. And then they realized, all right, maybe her judgment isn't the best. Because think about it, she's never produced a successful show. She's had multiple shows that she's tried to produce. She had
Mm-hmm.
food porn. She had the big shot. She had her Frederick and Bethany show.
Mm-hmm.
None of them ever really worked or developed beyond one season. And so I think they're the pros. And so they're probably like, this is what we think works. And she was probably like, no, this is what I know is going to work for my brand and what I want. And it just wasn't a match. And I just think there was no compatibility. And she was probably very difficult to work with.
What do you think she is going to be doing in 5 years?
She has to go back to reality TV in some way, shape, or form, whether it's Housewives or not. Like that's her comfortable medium. And that's where she's able to really sell herself. Like that's where people will want to buy her products. Listening to the podcast, I don't think is really giving very much. And I don't think it's going to be sustainable for her in the long run. I don't know if she knows what direction she's necessarily going. She's kind of just throwing everything at the wall and waiting for something to stick. But if I could take a guess, in 5 years, I would say she's going to be back on television. She has to be. And she's smart enough to
Mm-hmm.
know, just like Housewives last time she came back, she was smart enough to know when it's time to fold your cards and go back to what you know. I don't know if she'll ever go back to Housewives specifically
Mm-hmm.
because I think the ego won't allow her to, but I see her returning to that unscripted reality television eventually.
Did I tell you that I found Bryn's
Instagram?
private Instagram?
Yes. Yes.
I think it's I am Bryn Peanut, and it's private, and It's followed by Bethenny and Dorinda. It is
Yeah.
her. And I was shaken to my core when I saw the name. Like, you have like your username, Bryn Hoppy. It was there in black and white, and I was shook. I could not deal with my kid having the last name of this guy that I was barely with, but yet had a kid with, and then proceeded to ruin my life for a decade. And, and also, she has the same exact face as Jason Hoppy. I couldn't live. That combo would drive me off a bridge.
Yeah, especially because, you know, Bethenny is very ego driven, that she wants everything to always be about her, that having to see Jason's face and his name.
It's Jason Hoppy in a blonde wig.
I'm pretty sure she's having a really tough time with it.
Do you think?
Yeah.
I'm like, if I'm thinking about it, she's got to be thinking about it.
There's no denying that Jason's in there.
Did I ever tell you, or maybe I told you, but I don't know that I ever mentioned it on this show. Did I ever tell you how I once called into her SiriusXM show?
Yes.
Okay.
You loved that show.
I loved her SiriusXM show. This was during season 8 of rhony, when she and Carol were like really had this budding friendship, and it was the season It's Not About Tom, when like so Carol would like guest co-host with her a few times, and all they did was talk shit about Luann. It was really funny. It was like really good. And she would take calls, just like Dorinda now takes calls, you know, like anybody, Sandra Bernhard, they all take calls. And one day, literally, I guess I was working from home. I don't know why I was home, but I was listening to it live, and I called in and they took my call, and I asked, will you ever write a book about your divorce? And she said, yes, I want to write a book on how to not get fucked in your divorce. Cut to present day. She hasn't written a book since, except cut to present day. She has written a book. It's coming out next month, and it's a fucking business book that nobody wants.
Business is personal.
Where's my divorce book, Bethenny? You told me it's coming.
I mean, I think that, like, and we've discussed this, like, that's something people would be interested in because they want to know about her divorce. But I think it's because, like, with Bryn, like, she wants to so far get away from Jason Hoppy that she's just like, I'm not even going to touch that. I'm not even going to go in that direction because I don't want to drag all of that up again. But it's like,
but she does on the podcast. Like, she does what she does in the context of like Kim Kardashian and Kanye. She does allude to her divorce, and she does say, if I were Kanye, I would do XYZ relating to the kid. And then she talks about Pete Davidson again in relation to the kid that is being shared, or the multiple kids, whatever. So she's not opposed to it. Where's the book? That's the moneymaker, baby.
She's trying to build herself as this like Gary V, Shark Tank serial entrepreneur. And that's like the direction that she wants to go in. I think she thinks that that's going to be the next wing of her career, is she's going to be a Gary V. And she's going to be able to be like, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and here's my advice, and here's my motivational YouTube video, and here's my book about business. And I just don't think she has that, especially because I don't know if she's really a successful businesswoman as much as she's a successful reality star. I think she's she's had smart marketing moments, right? And she knows how to speak to her audience, but I think she's blinded by her ego in a lot of it. And I don't know if she's really going to be the next Gary V. I think nobody's interested in that from her.
Rate these in order of entertainment value. Bethenny the Talk Show, her podcast, Big Shot with Bethenny.
I'm going to go with Big Shot at number 1. Number 2, I'm going to give it to the talk show because obviously we're still talking about it and watching the video clips. And I'm going to throw her podcast at the bottom because I don't particularly find it that interesting. Number 1, I mean, I think there are moments that we talk about, yes, but also for me as a podcaster who is doing this full time, it's insulting to see somebody like her go up and not give a shit and just have her hair a fucking mess and to have these cheap ass microphones and to just be like, I did it and I'm a successful podcaster and I'm on the top ranked charts. And I'm like, no, bitch, when you go broke because of the debt that you've had to rack up to build a podcast, you'll know what it means to be in the top 100 charts. I've worked from the bottom up. I can call myself a real, true, successful podcaster that pays my bills. You came in with a built-in platform and audience, and it's disrespectful for people that actually do this sort of stuff. Just like I think it's disrespectful to people like Gary Vee, who actually came from nothing and built successful businesses from the ground up. She had Skinny Girl, but she also had Bravo that gave her an opportunity to market Skinny Girl. And that's not to say that she wasn't successful at it and she didn't strike a good deal and she didn't learn a lot. I don't want to take away credit from her. Credit's due where credit is due. But I think she has this level of delusion to think that she works a lot harder than she actually has without acknowledging the benefits that have come and the success that she's been given as a result of the opportunity that she was given.
So you never listened to her Sirius show?
I never had SiriusXM.
Oh, I guess I would actually throw that at the top. I would
only catch the clips. Well, you didn't give me that as an option. You only gave me 3 options.
Well, I only thought of it now. But if I'm ranking, I'm going to put that at the top.
I don't have SiriusXM, but I watch a lot of the video clips that are put out, like for Jeff Lewis or Andy Cohen or all of their shows. I catch the clips. Her talk show was entertaining, but I think it was a little more structured, whereas the podcast, I think she's just kind of like, eh.
Can I tell you how good Jeff Lewis's Sirius show is? It is a reality show. He turned it into a reality show. It's brilliant.
It gives you that fix that you had from, I think Flipping Out had reached its run. That I think he's such a great personality, and I think this is a natural forum for him that I think he's going to thrive in.
It feels like, in a way, it feels like the Howard Stern show. Like he's got his assistant who's a character. Yeah. He's pulling in the people from his real life and making them characters, that's the Howard Stern model. Yeah. Like Jeff Lewis's show is better than Andy Cohen Live, which actually sort of sucks, if I'm being honest.
But I think with Andy, he's doing so much that he doesn't even really give 100 to anything that he does now. And you can see it. Like he's fatigued. He's tired. He's a dad. He wants to retire. He wants the money, but he doesn't want to be doing all these million things anymore. Maybe they're a little fun sometimes, but you can just tell there's like a fatigue within him where he's kind of just over it now.
Speaking of being a dad, he mentions wanting to have kids in his interview on Bethenny's show. I thought that was interesting because this was like years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that part. And I also liked when they're showing her audition tape, Cookie is with her in the cab. And that sort of pulled at my heartstrings. I was like, Cookie.
I know.
R.I.P. Cookie to Boo Boo.
She really loved Cookie. That was her baby. And if you think about it, Cookie was there through her side through a lot of the big stuff.
Pour one out for Cookie.
You have your little baby that I'm sure it hits you a lot more than it, hits me, and it still hits me.
Yeah. Zack Peter, you said it all. Tell people where they can listen to your podcast, when the New York City date is, how to get tickets, and who's coming up on the podcast.
April 28th at City Winery NYC. You can get tickets at spillingtealive.com. Jess is going to be there with me on stage. We have a number of incredible talent. We have Anthony Lario, Tom Hamlet from the Dumpster Dive podcast, DJ Richie Sky. It's going to be a fun lineup. We also have Margaret Josephs that's going to be there. So Adam and I are going to be putting on this very fun variety show for you guys. April 28th. You can get your tickets at spillingtealive.com. My podcast is called #NoFilter with Zack Peter. It's available on all podcast platforms and available to watch on YouTube. I do have a wine line that's called No Filter Wine. It's Housewives inspired. So we have fun slogans pulled from Housewives that are on each of the different cans. We have a rosé and a white. Both are sparkling. That's available at nofilterwine.com. It's 13% alcohol by volume, so it'll get you litty city, but there's no sugar, so you're not going to have a gnarly wine headache tomorrow. But yeah, those are my things. I have a tour, I have a podcast, and I have a wine line, Jess.
And who is coming up on the podcast?
Well, I just had Craig Conover on the podcast, which was fun because I was literally going through all of that with Jess, where I was reading his book and getting ready for that interview.
Will you share the review of the book that you shared with me? It won a prize in your eyes. It made it to number 1 of a list in your eyes.
Did it?
Yeah, you said it was the worst Bravo related book you've ever. You said it was the worst book you've ever read by a Bravo celebrity. So that's notable.